Good evening. Welcome to, or the time is 6 o'clock on Monday, February 3rd, and I'm calling to order the meeting of the Norwalk Bike Walk Commission. And I'm Emily Bernemans, currently serving as chair. And in attendance, we have Christine Bisegli, Nick Pappas, Manuel Salgado, Becca Stoll, Tanner Thompson, Greg Pacelli, Dilene Bird, and Jim Travers. And so on our agenda tonight, we are going to start with a presentation from Jim at TMP of the budget. So Jim, I'll let you take it away.
Hi, how are you? So thank you. I think we've gotten, we started this maybe last year or the year before, I can't remember, where we just go through. Um, it's early on in the process, so this is not the approved budget, but this is the budget as requested by the department. So our budget does increase, from a capital perspective pretty significantly than it did in years past. But I think we had some justifications for it and some good narratives behind it. Um, you know, so because it's not an approved budget yet, they've asked me not to release like the actual request, but just so more into the categories that we're looking at. So we did see a significant increase coming from road design and reconstruction, and that has been the account that we do often seek support in the design. It also allows us to do some of the smaller reconstruction that maybe happen at an intersection. But so we anticipate a fair amount the design work that'll come out of there, and that design work also includes where we're putting in some budget items for sorry some budget item for your request for the match for a grant that you're looking to go for. We'll pull it out of that account. Um, we did look at separating it out separately, but just in line where if there were items to be cut, we wanted to make sure that what we did is we covered it in there, which was not be uncommon to cover a grant out of that one. Your request sits in our number one priority of a grant in that match, right? The next is that we have is traffic signal equipment. The city received record-breaking funds for their rebuild of a new Norwalk High School. Those grants, however, only cover the property line associated with the building and nothing outside. So it does need a new signal for the school. So we received some funding to make that happen. We have a small gap, so we have that gap funding to put in place. We're currently working with a designer right now for the design of that and to try to get it in place before the school opens. So we think that we'll be able to make that time frame, but that's the only portion that we have for the traffic signal equipment coming out of this year. We do have some grants that are keeping us. The reason we didn't put more into this is because we have some signalization grants that we were able to secure that the work will continue on through next year working on those. The next is new sidewalk construction. That one, we have a pretty more significant increase than we had in years past. But also one of the things that we want to get done out of this one is the sidewalks on George Avenue. So there are residents on George Avenue that pretty much call every single time that there is a story in a newspaper that about sidewalks, asking when are they getting their sidewalks. It was listed as a priority sidewalk in the 2010 Transportation Master Plan. And again, in the 2022 Transportation Master Plan, out of that, we did receive the design money for that. So we are designing them this year with the anticipation that we'll get the funding for installation next year. And we will look to install it with with that year's budget. So that was, that's a pretty large stretch that we're looking to get, and how that's going to work. We're currently going through that right now. So that one we think we're pretty excited about. Um, we are continuing our Safe Routes to School and expanding on our Safe Routes to School requests. They have been, very popular from the school's perspective, and also aiding in creating, safer roads and classifying roadways in order for kids to be able to walk to school. So we're looking for those gaps in sidewalks. This year this coming year we look to narrow that gap, for the Cranberry School and get sidewalks in on Chestnut Hill Road, or Avenue, sorry. Um, so I think that that's a big one, but pretty popular from the school perspective. Lots of requests. It also gets us, to do an application for school zones where we can establish lower speeds around school zones and provide the necessary hardware signage that go along with those speed reductions. Um, we continue to make the capital investment for design into the Wall Street project. So we've been fairly successful with securing some various funds. That does require the city does the design. So we look to continue to look to throughout the project to put the design funds through there. This one is particularly concerning to us because we do have a federal grant. Last week was pretty difficult for us of trying to navigate the changes daily in what requirements were going to be for the grant, whether it's going to be here, whether it's not going to be here, whether it's here with various conditions. Um, so we very much want to look to continue to advance that project. Um, we have currently our investments in pavement signage, and pavement signing and markings. So this past year, we're wrapping up right now a citywide street sign audit. So we went out and audited all of the street signs we have, looked at what are the requirements. We did note a number of locations through this audit that would require some type of stop control at one or multiple legs of an intersection that aren't there today. So from a safety perspective, concerning, so we will be able to respond to those gaps, as well as when DPW paves a road, that we also then would look at pavement markings as an opportunity to advance those. So that would come out of there. The other item that we have is we have a gap in funding for it's not really a gap in funding, it's a grant match for the West Rock sidewalks. So we several years ago, we applied for and were awarded a federal grant for sidewalks on West Rocks. During that design process and through community meetings, really looked at the introduction of some raised crosswalks throughout the corridor, some RRFBs at these crossings, looking at doing some, which we would move out of the Safe Routes to School zone, but getting school zone flashers up there. But one of the grants we started at a smaller grant, but that extended, and we are in the final stages of getting that approved for a larger dollar amount. So we would have the gap. It's a 80-20. So we would 80% gap, 20% or 80% grant, 20% by the city. So we're looking to fill that gap through that portion. And then we did request the funding for complete the funding for the East Avenue corridor improvements to allow to start on some community participation and what that would be, what a design would look like for East Avenue. We have a match in there. We were able to secure a grant. We have a match for that grant for the Gregory at Fifth sidewalk. I'm sorry, I'm on sidewalks are on the brain. Gregory at Fifth Roundabout and streetscape improvements on Fifth Street. So that would be the required match that we have to advance that. We are going out to design ahead of that, so we have some design funds already secured through this year's budget. So looking to add on to that. And then additionally, we have funding in there for some, uh, there are some improvements needed, roadway improvements needed on Isaac Street for some recent developments that have that occurred there that we feel would be necessary to advance. So we're looking to, and that's basically in the essence of the road terminates, and rather than a direct terminate, we can get in a small little traffic circle that would actually allow passenger vehicle to get back out. So looking to design that and get that in there. We do have some other funds from last year, so we'll fill up some continued other projects that we have in line, but that tops our request out. And it does look, we are a little bit more than 50% increase of what we had over the previous year. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, yeah, so we'll open up to questions from commissioners. Tanner, I see you already have your hand raised. Why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I've got 4 questions. I'm happy to intersperse with other commissioners if they have questions. But I'll do my first one. Jim, you mentioned the citywide street sign audit. It's the first that I've heard of this. I'm wondering if you could share any more details, and specifically, I'm wondering if the audit captured whether street signs impede the sidewalk. Just anecdotally, I know around town there's a lot of street signs and frankly other things like utility poles that are sunk right into the sidewalk and get in the way of pedestrians.
So it didn't include whether there's additional space for it, but what it was we had no inventory of any signs that we had. So we had no ability to say like what signs we had on any particular street, and we know that we want to advance that, and we have spent some part of this year refining a street sign style guide that will not only dictate to us the look and feel of a new sign, but also having in there the specifics so that we can give those to the sign crew that will tell you where the sign's supposed to be, how much space is supposed to be remaining, kind of get what you're referring to is, we've not given the field crew, so for this is I don't have any sign crew, right? So we get them on loan through DPW when we have a need. So what we wanted to do is sometimes those people will be the same folks, sometimes they'll be different. And that becomes a challenge to you because you get them in wherever. So this is or varying heights. We've had them put in at incorrect heights, right? So somebody walk down the street, it's at head level. So the new design guide will start to give guidance about where they're going to be and what should be remaining, but not captured through the initial audit.
Okay, as a follow-on to that, do you have any particular approach or strategy to resolving all of these signs that are blocking the sidewalk, or is that not a goal?
So we look at each of them as in very varying order. We look at each as we do a project and where we could bring the betterments to it. But again, I don't have a crew, so we have to be a little bit more responsive and I think reactive instead of proactive. Lacking any resources to actually get that done.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is it's a little bit out of your hands right now, given the resources you have.
we have no people to do it, so we only have people who could actually get the signs done. So we do look at it when we have a project in the area. We, really want to get to a situation, if we're going to make an investment in some road paving or a sidewalk. Well, sidewalks at the time we are doing something different. We're actually putting a sleeve in there. We're dictating the space where it goes. We're taking out that error of judgment of where it can go and just getting it in the early construction stages so that we see it. But if there's sometimes that we're not in that we're in the side of the road, but we also want to look at, the reflectivity of the signs, so the city makes it a significant investment into repaving a road. And, those are, pretty strong benefits that happen into a neighborhood. And we want to solidify that by, having the signage be at the right angle, at the right height, the right reflectivity, the right style, the right, we did change a little bit of the style of the parking signs, but get all of those corrected at one time. I think one of the things that challenges, when you have repeated signs, you might have, no parking signs, and they're different colors, different sizes of signs, different fonts, just different arrows. Some say arrow, some say two corners. So we're looking to standardize that as we do project by project.
So you mentioned the sign design guide. Is that part of the Complete Streets design guide? Is it like an appendix to it, or is it unrelated?
That's unrelated. It's just simply it's simply just the so the street signs giving we worked with the mayor on a new design that's largely mimicked off of the flagged signs for that you see in New York City. There's a benefit that comes from that because it flags inward, so that you could put the U channel closer to the curb line, and then so the sign's not over the roadway. It'll just flag into the street itself. So those are the new signs that we're putting up. We piloted them in Wall Street last year and measured the compliance to these. We still saw a significant increase of compliance when we normalize the street signs. So we furthered that with new signs that we just installed on Washington, and we'll look to continue to move forward. But it is a standalone, not part of Complete Streets, just an operating guide.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Any other commissioners with questions for Jim on the presentation of the preliminary budget? As you said, Jim, it's still to be approved. Do you know when specifically it will go through that approval process?
So it goes to finance, goes to the mayor's office. The mayor does a proposed budget, and then from the proposed budget, it then goes to committee and council. So that so they'll run through through that portion of it. I believe the budget in its entirety has to be voted on and approved by April. So at this point in time, it comes. I think there is a quick run of committees and that run through it going forward. It also then goes to the BET and for the Board of Estimate and Taxation. And then once completed by the Board of Estimate and Taxation. Sorry, it was a long day today. And then the final run is to council for approval. And then everything just goes into play. It is effective July 1. And then we just work through that process of having it entered into the system. And then once it's entered in the system, can start to draw down from those.
Perfect. Thank you. Manny, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I can't show my face right now. But I was just, and thank you for this information, Jim. I live on Gregory and quite close to the traffic circle, and so I was just curious what the timeline is for the traffic circle upgrade in the Fifth Street. I guess upgrade as well.
Right. So we are wrapping up the end of of a mini RFP to go out to bid for design. So, and then with that design, we also want to make sure that we have a considerable amount of community feedback. So part of that is included is some community meetings to talk about that. I think we have you know, a fairly good concept design that gets in the amenities that we want, which, you know, also starts to, you know, get us in that multi-use trail or extension or of the NRVT that goes through the area. So, you know, and how it continues to go down Cap Pasture and set that. So I think what we'll see largely probably for the large part of this year is the approval process, not only from the community meetings, but anytime that we get grants, we have to go through that. You know, we always have to hit pause on various points of the design process and have the funder weigh in to make sure that we're following the guides. And in particularly in Connecticut, there's a roundabout committee that it goes through as well. So I think my best estimation is that, you know, while we may be able to put it out to bid, hopefully by the end of this year, likely we'll see construction start in 26.
Thank you.
But I think much needed, as if you live there, you probably could attest to, right? We have a traffic circle, but it's not really a traffic circle.
Yeah, the yield sign's really interesting, but I guess I get it
In the middle
sometimes.
of it, yeah, right?
Just more traffic's coming from like Marvin, but but it is kind of confusing.
It's well, and it's also as we look to design more throughout the city that we have to have the level of consistency because otherwise people aren't going to understand what to do, right? And you know that was one of the issues where we have another traffic circle up at Hospital Hill, and Hospital Hill is currently out to bid right now. And you know, that is massively confusing, and that confusion has created, you know, a fair amount of accidents that are up there. So we want to make sure that each roundabout that we do is you know, has that same level of consistency throughout the city.
Great. Okay, Tanner, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, just a quick follow-on to Manny's question first. You said you're wrapping up an RFP for Gregory. That's for design work, presumably?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Thanks. And actually, the timeline of that project was one of the questions I was going to ask, so I'll skip to my third question. You mentioned improvements on Isaac Street. Just to confirm, these are improvements that otherwise are not in scope for the much larger Wall Street corridor project?
Correct, because they came in to play as a result of development. So yeah, it wasn't included in the large. It'll be standalone because it's going to be dependent on the development that goes in there.
Gotcha. Okay, so the exact nature of these improvements on Isaac Street are not nailed down because the development's not nailed down.
Well, no, so the approved plans called for the road to just end, right? And so what we said is, yes, it could technically happen, and yes, you could make a few point turn to get your car out of there, but isn't ideal, right? So, you know, we look at you know, acquiring a you know, a small section of 3 properties that are there in order to get a modest size traffic circle so that you come down the end, you know, very similar to like a cul-de-sac, turn around and get back out.
Yeah, I understand the nature of what you're describing. I'm just wondering if the nature of this project is such that it's like dependent upon the development. Like essentially, are you going to wait to do this until the development is finalized, or is it kind of going in parallel?
So it will go in parallel because part of it is the you know, property that we would need to acquire from Wall Street Place, and that would depend. You know, we're not going to have Wall Street Place build a sidewalk for then us to rip it out to reconfigure that to get a traffic circle back there.
Okay.
So we would just do it all at once. So we would largely probably see that traffic circle be able to, you know, at least, maybe the top half of it, or the northern half of it would be able to get completed regardless of the development, right? We'd have that there, but and because the other one would still be into a parking lot, right? So we don't want to terribly impede or make things worse, right? So it would be a staged end, but there's also a requirement that we have on one of the developers to do a third of it, right? So they would do that bottom. So we, in essence, could get 2/3 of it done through this process, leaving the third to be done by the developer during their final build out.
Okay, neat. And then the money that you've allocated in this budget request, or that you're requesting to be allocated, is for construction, or is it for design and construction?
Design and construction.
Okay. That's all that I had about Isaac Street. Again, I'll yield to other commissioners. I have one more question.
Okay, thank you, Tanner. Any other commissioners with questions for Jim on the TMP proposed budget? Okay, Tanner, I think you can take it away with your last question.
Yeah. The last question is a meta question about the process. Is there anything in particular, Jim, that you can speak to that has changed between this year and past years that resulted in you not being able to share individual line items or individual amounts? Like in the past, I remember, I think when Garrett came, he was able to present, like screen share a PDF with the individual line items. I mean, if nothing else, on our end, it helps us to take better notes, right? Like I took notes as well as I could, but they're pretty disorganized.
So I think last year we just came later on in the process where we'd already it had gone through, right? So just out of respect for the mayor, which he gets, it goes to finance and the mayor that we're there. But not giving the additional amounts, I can tell you, there was significant increases, right? So 40% increase in roadway design and construction. We had, 140% increase in new sidewalk construction, right? So we're making significant increase. We had a 25% increase, in other items that, other ones, relatively small. West Rocks is a new item. It's a match, right? That is just, that's just there. But I think the issue is we were just later on in the process.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a sufficient answer. That's I appreciate the detail, but I wrote down another question and I miscounted. I'm wondering, Emily, if I can use the last minute or so of this section to ask my last question.
Perfect timing. Go ahead.
All right. What are your thoughts right now around how to prioritize projects if in the current federal government climate, if federal funding falls out, like what's the worst case scenario? What's our game plan?
Look, I mean, some of the grants are pretty significant. A worst case scenario, that's just not going to get done, right?
Well, I guess maybe specifically which grants are most contingent on federal funding, or is that virtually all of them? Like the state grants where they pass through funding?
We have $5.5 million associated with the next phase of Wall Street, which is a pretty significant component of that in Burdell Boulevard. And in Maine, we have the West Rock sidewalks. This one is the one that we continue to have lots of conversations about. It was one of the first grants that we did. It was one of the first congressionally directed funding dollars that were awarded.
You're talking about West Rocks, right?
What?
You're talking about West Rocks.
Yes.
Sorry. Yes.
It is administered by DOT. DOT had to develop the process. We've worked with them what that process would look like. I think it has been about 3.5 years of working on a simple sidewalk project. Sorry. if it doesn't go, if we make our way at this point, having gone through all the hoops that we have to not have this go through, it will be massively disappointing, not only to the people who live on West Rocks, but to all of us who have worked through hundreds of meetings to get the sidewalk design advanced. So it has been quite a challenging week last week. It changed every day. I don't see it getting any better at any time soon. I think there's chaos, and we just have to find a way to do it. But those are two ones that are the top of mind right now. We also have next a wave of signal grants, which also brings us, adaptive and in more efficiencies to the system. But that grant was based on emission mitigation, which is not a priority for this administration. So they've already said that. So whether that gets funded, that's another one that's there. But it's challenging to us because it is, not only it's not hours, it's days that takes us to put these grant requests through. So it would be a considerable amount of time lost for them not to happen. But there's a considerable amount of time lost of just what we're operating through to make it happen every day. So I don't have any more word. I wish I had more answers on that one, except for the fact that it's been quite hard.
Yeah, there's certainly a ton of uncertainty right now. So I don't know what else you could have. I appreciate it though.
Okay.
Well, Jim, thank you so much for your time tonight and talking to us about the budget proposal. Last chance for any commissioners with questions for Jim.
I have a question. Jim, you mentioned that this budget should be approved sometime in April. For our future reference, is April the time of year where we should expect to have this budget approved?
And so it's always going to be approved by April, right? Sometimes it gets it gets through the process, the internal process a little faster, a little a little earlier, and ready for it. We respond to to the finance crew, who kind of they're the owners of the budget in its entirety, right? But from a requirement standpoint, we have to have an approved budget by April, right? So that's it's a buy, right? So sometimes they run through the process earlier, right? It just happens to be where we are right now to get it, but happy to run through it as soon as it's finalized.
I've got the calendar pulled up right here just for everyone's information. If you just Google Norwalk budget calendar, you can find this. Make sure that you find the capital budget calendar, but there's a few different dates in April that I imagine Jim's referring to one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, so you have you have April 8th, which is where the Common Council approve it. So that's the final stage of the adoption of the budget, right?
Everyone good?
Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay.
All right.
I thank you again, Jim. Yeah.
I'll leave you to it. Have a great one.
You too. Have a good night.
All right. Bye.
Thanks. Okay, so then next item on our agenda here is public participation. I see we do have some members of the public and maybe some new members joining us for the first time. Is there anyone that is interested in asking a question or giving public comment at this time? Please raise your hand if so. Okay, I'm not seeing anything, so I will move on to our next item here. Oh, but Tanner, I see you have your hand raised.
Oh, I just wanted to add that in the past, I've also invited anybody who's joining just to introduce themselves if they're unfamiliar to the group. This kind of work, advocacy for walking and biking, does rely on networking to a large degree. So anybody who's in the chat, as it were, who wants to just introduce themselves or identify themselves is also welcome.
I like it. Sounds good. Is anyone interested in introducing themselves? Please raise your hand. If not, I will continue on to our next item here, which is the acceptance of minutes. So in our last meeting, we weren't able, we did not have a quorum to approve our December minutes, and we also will need to approve our January minutes. I believe I can entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Or is there someone that is willing to make that motion?
I'll motion to approve the December minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Becca. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm
Excellent.
abstaining because I
Okay.
wasn't at that meeting.
That is a quorum. Christine, are you able to approve?
Nope, I wasn't at the meeting either.
Okay,
Abstain.
so I think that's still a quorum with the four of us, because I can vote, right? So myself, Nick, Becca, and Manny. And then I will also entertain a motion to approve the January meeting minutes. Is there any edits or additions to those minutes from commissioners? If not, can I entertain a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve them. I want to thank Delene specifically for these because actually no, I want to thank her for the December minutes because I read those to catch up. But yes, thank you, Delene. I'll move to accept the minutes.
Thank you, Tanner. Thank you, Darlene. Can I have a second? Thank you, Becca. All in favor?
Oh, sorry, Em, I made a mistake. I was there for December, not January.
Okay. I think we have a quorum, so January minutes are also approved. Okay, on to our next agenda item, new business. Becca, I will let you take the lead on this as the review of the intersection where Low meets Flax Hill Road in South Norwalk. Since this is something you brought to our agenda, do you want to talk a little more about that?
Sure. It's not an area that I'm familiar with, but as I run into residents of Norwalk in the world, I've been making sure that they know I'm a bike walk commissioner and asking if, there's something I can do for them. And a resident of South Norwalk brought this intersection to my attention. At a cursory look on Google Maps, I can totally see what the constituent's talking about, how it's a wide turn in, there's not sidewalks, thank you, Tanner, and how it's often somewhere that truck traffic reroutes to get around MLK and the train station, which is perhaps not the goal.
So I can speak to this because I live really close to here and I go through this intersection multiple times a week. I do agree that it's not optimal. I will say that the rapid flashing beacons that were, I think, recently installed at this crosswalk here are pretty effective. I use them basically anytime I walk to the train station. I walk this way, and although I'm usually biking to the station, I do remember recently I was walking home and at night and the flashing beacons were, let's see if they're on. Yeah, they are. These guys right here. They were quite effective. I think drivers blow through them sometimes, but definitely that's a welcome addition to the intersection from my perspective. If anything, I think a crosswalk along or across the end of Low here would be nice. Especially if you're coming from over here, like I usually am, because my house is over there, and you want to cross over the other side of Flax Hill, that would be nice. And this could be squared up, but I mean, there's a lot of bad intersections in the city, and I don't know if I would prioritize this one.
Is that a three-way stop at that intersection?
I don't think it is. I think there's a stop sign for the people coming in on Low, but there's no stop sign on Flax Hill.
Emily, do you mind if I just hop in real quick?
Please, yes.
So this one actually timing couldn't be better. Flax Hill Road is scheduled to be paved this year by Public Works. And as part of it, we've been coordinating with Public Works. They have a designer on board because they're doing, as part of the milling and paving, they're doing sidewalk work along the entirety of the Flax Hill Road corridor from Highland to Washington, So this intersection is being looked at to where we kind of normalize it and tee it up. So we can shorten the crosswalk distance, even out that stop bar, just for better visuals for vehicles coming out. Because where the stop bar is today, it's very difficult for cars parking along Flax Hill as well on the eastbound approach there. So they have to pull out into the road in order to see oncoming vehicles, which obviously gets in conflict with pedestrians also crossing the street. So by looking to tee up this intersection, shorten the distance for pedestrians, add that additional leg of the crosswalk along that southerly end there, along Low Street, add a crosswalk there, and incorporate the proper signage, to prevent people from parking, close to the corner, so that people have the right visuals to cross the street, and also for vehicles to see oncoming vehicles as well, because there is no stop control there, so it's a through movement. It's a pretty busy intersection there. There's a lot of oncoming vehicles from all directions. So it'll definitely look a whole lot different and operate much different once those improvements go in. But that is expected this year for 25 as part of the DPW's paving program.
That's really great news. Thank you, Greg. Tanner, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Greg, as part of the repaving, are there any sections of Flax Hill where it's going to be feasible to add a bike lane even in one direction? I know anecdotally I ride this a lot, and I usually see a cyclist on the sidewalk because the road, doesn't provide very much room for cyclists.
Yep. So we are looking at that at the pave marking plans currently being developed right now. We are looking to incorporate dedicated bike facilities along Flax Hill.
Sweet. Thank you.
I guess one last question I have for you, Greg. Becca mentioned that this is sometimes used by large vehicles or trucks as a alternative to, I forget which street you mentioned, Becca, or not going under the bridge. Is this an official roadway for larger vehicles, and how do we accommodate that with the plans that you mentioned?
Well, we really can't restrict heavy duty vehicles on this road, especially, we could, you could put no through trucks, but that's also determined by the state of Connecticut, and there has to be a justification to not allow them. And even with that no through truck designation, if they have a stop in Norwalk, they are allowed to utilize that road. So it's very difficult to enforce something like that. So yeah, it is probably because it comes right off of MLK, a heavy industrial area south on MLK. So yeah, there probably is a lot of heavy vehicles that use this roadway access to get to Flax Hill and then go up Taylor to get to Route 1. But it's not, it's kind of limited to what we can do and to enforce it as well.
Understood. Okay. Becca or any other commissioners, do you have any questions on this? Oh, Christine, go ahead.
Yeah, and Greg, of course, I yield to you. You're the expert. It just always bothers me, this area. It is so populated with, socioeconomically disadvantaged residents for years. And, all this gets put over there. I'm just wondering, you say it would be difficult. I understand what you're saying. And like I said, more than me, but if it's just difficult, is this something like the commissioners, to the commission, that we should really be kind of being an advocate for these residents who don't have a voice, who came to one of the commissioners to speak?
To restrict all trucks?
Well, so at least to get a conversation started. Well, I know there's conversation been before in the city of residents down there on MLK. I mean, the pollution, the noise, the traffic, the limiting of safe pedestrian and bicyclists.
I think that's what we're trying to accomplish with Flax Hill Road. We're trying to, we're improving the sidewalks. We're looking to get in some dedicated bike facilities. We were awarded a $14 million raise grant. If, federal government, what's going on aside, for MLK Drive. So we are putting in investments in the area for other alternatives other than vehicle usage. So we are putting a heavy investment into Sono, and we're also doing sidewalks as part of the new school. We're also installing, miles of sidewalks as part of the new Sono school that's being built as well. So we are putting a large investment into the area.
And I'm not putting this on you. I'm just saying that's fantastic news, of course. But regarding that, truck traffic is not going to stop. And it's just gone on and on and on. Is there anything that we can do as a commission to start a conversation on a state level? Like to see how some sort of like, not an audit, but like you know how they have the, like number of trucks coming through?
Well,
like
that would be the starting point, is we would have to do we'd have to do a study to see what the truck traffic is like coming up this way. But again, you know, it's like I said, it's difficult. You can't just say there's no big trucks that can drive on this road, because then guess what? They're gonna go on another road.
Right, no, I understand, but so regarding a study, has a study ever been done before? I'd be surprised.
No,
if
because it has to be, it would have to be something like that, would have to look at what you're specifically looking at. I don't know in what, you know, we'd have to look at like the percentage of heavy trucks, and that would have to be divvied out by what type of heavy duty truck as well. Like a box truck is much different than like a semi truck.
Right. But
So
is
all
there
that would have to be calculated, which takes time. And then also it else that also all go through the certain approval process, you know, at the city level and then at the state level, to get final approval for even just a no through truck designation. Which again, if the truck has to stop in Norwalk, they're still allowed to use that road. And it's very difficult from a police perspective to enforce something like that.
Yeah, I'm just curious if there's another model, another city that's done this, because like I said, this is a population that does not have a voice. And we see all these sidewalks, which is wonderful in Norwalk, but frankly, it's, you know, Rowayton, West Rocks. I mean, those are all, you know, Silver Mine. And we didn't hear one thing about South North. Now you're talking about it now, and now there's
Rowayton, we get complaints of Rowayton all the time as well, because there's a state route that goes right through Rowayton.
yeah.
I
so
think
again-
her point, Greg, is that Rowayton does disproportionately speak up, and that this neighborhood doesn't.
Mhm.
But Christine, there might be an opportunity here. Greg maybe can correct me if I'm wrong, but this intersection and all of Flax Hill Road is within the study area for the Route 1 corridor study, which I'm sharing the screen here. Can you see that? And I don't know the details of the study. They have done at least one round of public outreach. I don't recall if truck traffic was brought up or not, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was. And I think they're going to be doing another round of public input, but Greg can speak to all of this more. And maybe that's the best vehicle, no pun intended, for raising this concern of Christine's.
Yeah, no, you definitely provide comment that way. You know, we just from the study perspective, it's, you know, you have to look at a much deeper like origin destination. You know, a lot of these, if you look south of where that highlighted area is, that's more of the industrial area on MLK, which a lot of these trips are originating from. So I'm not sure if that would even pick up. But we're mainly looking at this part of the study along Route 1. We're not looking at every single side road that is within the highlighted area. You know, as far as truck traffic and, you know, that kind of detail. So it would take a much more, you know, intensive process to determine what the truck traffic looks like. And that would be just a starting point to get that process going. So, I mean, you guys, if you find another example of another city that did something like this, there's a lot of guidance out there, you know, to restrict heavy duty vehicles, you know, that you guys come up with, you know, let us know. But like Tanner said, you know, Christine, if you want to make a public comment that way, as part of the Route 1 corridor study, you can certainly do that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think I would like to keep, and I appreciate that, Greg, that you didn't just shut it down completely. And I maybe a legislator that represents or on transportation committee on the state level, like I don't know if Bob Duff but Travis Sims, I don't know. So I appreciate that. I will make a public comment then on this website, on the website, correct? The TMP website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then anyway, you know, and Becca, the same thing. If you get any, you know, residents that you run into that have a complaint about anything, the best thing you can direct them to is the city's click and request customer service app. That's the best way, because this way it's a record of it. It goes to the proper department. Because not everything, some things could be Public Works, Rec and Parks, all various departments. So always better to have a record of it and go to the right people. So just direct them towards the click and request app. And Christine, same thing in your regard. If anything comes up, the click and request app.
And
Thank you,
Christine,
Craig.
you are correct. Travis Sims is on the transportation committee. I just double checked. If you want to reach out to him.
We do have one raised hand from our public comment or public section. If Darlene, if you wouldn't mind giving Andrew Sinclair the ability to speak. I see he has his hand raised. Thank you, Darlene. Andrew, go ahead.
Hey, Greg. Just wanted to say thank you for talking about this section of the road. I'm similar to Tanner, a pretty common, constant user of this area, and have been for a while, both there as a pedestrian, cyclist, and a driver. And I'm glad that someone's calling out that intersection, because it's been a pretty kind of a scary intersection, even as a driver. So I'm glad that's that'll get looked at as the whole Flax Hill gets looked at. And then also the point about the bike lane. I'm curious when that study is going to be done and like what that's going to look like, because there's I used to be a cycle commuter along this route for a while. And there's a lot that could be done with the cycle lane. So I was just curious when and how that's going to be happening.
So the sidewalks and roadway are getting paved in 2025. That's part of the process. We're under design right now with one of Public Works' design teams. Similar as TMP has design consultants. We outsource this one to the designer. So we're working through that design process right now, and with hopes to get this out to bid so that we can hit the ground running come construction season, April, May time. Because there's a lot of work that has to be done. It's a long stretch of roadway, and both sides of the roadway are getting sidewalks and curbing, and there's also some drainage work that's being completed as part of it. And as part of the design process, we're looking at the dedicated bike lanes and trying to get what we can fit in as it aligns to the current complete street design guide. So this is one of our first projects that we're designing under the design guide. That's available on the city's website. So the consultant has that copy of our design guide and is designing it, and we're reviewing it under that realm. So we're looking to maximize what we can get out of the roadway.
That's great to hear, because yeah, there's some pretty inhospitable parts for cyclists and pedestrians, especially some very inaccessible parts. And just because we spent a lot of time talking about it earlier, is there any possibility in the process for 2025 that things like a roundabout could be put in at like Low and Flax Hill or any of those locations? Or is it too late for that?
So as part of that, as part of the design work, we weren't looking to implement a roundabout only because there's really not a lot of room there to accommodate a modern roundabout, to incorporate all vehicle types and as well as getting vehicles in, because we have to look at the existing right of way, just see how much room we have. So we have done our data collection, before the design began, and looked at all that information along the corridor, what kind of speeds we're seeing. So we're looking to get speeds as lower, travel lanes, narrow the travel lanes, establish the parking lanes where where there is existing parking. So we're trying to fit everything we can to the street, but no roundabouts are proposed as part of the Flax Hill project.
Fair enough. That makes a lot of sense. I just want to throw out a quick anecdote that this popped into my mind. I actually know somebody that put forward-looking infrared on their car because of how sketchy it is being a pedestrian on Flax Hill. So I'm glad that it's being redesigned and looked at through the Complete Streets Guide.
Yep, we're excited to be one of our first ones that we designed. So look forward to seeing how it comes out.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Greg. Christine, did you have one last question or?
No, I just appreciate all the work Greg does.
Great.
Thank you, Christine.
Okay. So then moving on to our next item here, I believe this came from Tanner, and it's a request to present the design plans for Wall Street. Tanner, is there anything else you want to add to that, or should I just hand it off to Greg?
Yeah, no, for context, in, I think it was the last council meeting, I don't do a great job of looking at every council agenda, but I looked at the council agenda this last time around, and there was a something mentioned in the attachment to the agenda about how the design work was completed in 2024 for Wall Street. And I think Fuss and O'Neill is the partner there. And I'm wondering if that is, if we've hit that milestone or maybe it wasn't done. It was 60% done, I think. But
So-
some milestone was hit in the design.
So that was to sign on Fuss and O'Neill to get the plans to 60%.
Oh, that was it.
30%. So what that is just advancing the plans, and as part of their scope of work, additional public meeting will be incorporated into that. So during the public meeting process, that's when the public will be able to view the plans and make comments on it. So that's what that item was, Tanner, on the council meeting.
Do we have a date yet for that?
We do not have no. We've been working just to get the contractor underway on East Wall Street. We want to see, which they are ready to go. It's just waiting for warmer weather at this point, but we want to see shovels in the ground and these improvements actually incorporated before we host a public meeting. But one is coming. Also what Jim had talked about earlier is we still have a gap in funding for the entirety. We don't have it fully funded yet. So we also have many various stakeholders that we're working with between DOT, North Transit District, the Wall Street Neighborhood Association. So we have a lot of stakeholders that we're working with, and they want to see, plans too. So we're going to unveil them at the next public meeting, to get comments from everybody, including yourselves. We encourage you all to attend when that public meeting is announced, but that's what we're working towards. So we have a lot of moving pieces. This is one of the largest, or probably the largest investment in an area as far as roadway improvements is concerned. I believe, we're up to almost $30 million for improvements. And like I said, we have a gap in funding that we need to continue to look for other funding sources to fill that gap.
Okay. Greg, you mentioned East Wall Street in the commencement of phase 1. Is that's for shovels in the ground, and that's going to start hopefully once warmer weather?
Yeah, we're hopeful. Right now we're at the first week or two in March, as long as the weather cooperates and we don't have a foot of snow and it's not 30 degrees out. So we had a little bit of warm up today. Even if we did have snow, but if we're getting consistent 40 to 50 degree days, the contractor's looking to perform that work, and if they're able to start in March, they're looking to be substantially done, by the end of the construction season in 25. So that's where we're at with that.
Great.
Just to clarify what I was saying earlier, the deal that I was picking up on was that the 30% design plans were finalized in the year 2024.
Yep.
And then you're saying that the extension of Fuss and O'Neill's contract was to get to 60%.
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Any other questions from commissioners about the Wall Street, design plans for Wall Street, excuse me? Christine, I see you have your hand up, but I don't know if. Okay. Okay, then next on our agenda is discussion. And the first item on our discussion here is the Norwalk Bike Walk Strategic Plan for 2025. And Tanner, I might have to ask you about our process for approving this, but before I get into that, can everyone see my screen here?
Yes.
Perfect. And thank you, Julia. Green is joining us too. I'm sorry I didn't mention you at the start of this meeting. I saw you joined immediately though. So thank you for being a part of our plan here. And that kind of dives into our first item here, which Julia, I'll let you share about the Bike League certification program.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you guys discussed this. I missed the last meeting, but I did get approval from my boss to take the bike courses in April. I met with Christine as well, and Christine let me know that there is a class to take prior, I guess, with a instructor that's already certified. So I have to touch base with her about that. But I am able to take the April classes to become certified to do this, so we can run, so I can help with running bike classes, and it's more convenient too because I do work for the city already. So I would have free range to do run classes for whatever group we decide on.
This is really great news, and thank you so much for signing up and getting this sign off. And thank you, Christine, for helping move this process along and working with Jalea. And Christine is also a certified league instructor. So it's also to our benefit for that prerequisite to the course to have the certified instructor on our team and able to work with you. So thank you, Jalea. And that ties into our two goals here, which is to run safe cycling courses, which Christine, Julia, and Brianna from New Vance Help has also offered to be involved and help us in that. And then to certify one new league instructor, which will be Julia as part of the City of Norwalk and the Health Department. Christine, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's wonderful news, Julia. Yeah, and we can talk offline and set something up. Emily's got some of those details, but what I have a question here on this, the goal here, I don't know who put that together, the minimum of 10 attendees per course. As an instructor, that's not the recommended number, and it depends on how many instructors are there. So I wasn't part of this. It says owner for me. I wouldn't have put that, I don't think, 10 attendees per course. And I don't know if this is like somebody from the Connecticut State Community Colleges setting this up. I'm not clear on that part, Emily, I'm sorry. And we don't
No
have to get into it now. We could talk on in another situation. Because we
Well-
have a lot on the agenda to get through, so I don't want to tie it up.
Correct. No, I appreciate you pointing this out, though. What is your recommended attendees per course, Christine, knowing that we will have 2 instructors?
Okay, you have 2 instructors? Okay, does it say that, 2 instructors? I don't see it there, so if you want to add that would be doable. Yeah. It still might be a lot. It might be more like 6 to 8. I think there's a recommendation through the league, but I can check on that and get back to you.
Perfect. Well, my goal is to approve these tonight. So if 6 to 8 is what our goal will be, it doesn't have to be this. It's what we're reaching for. But the
Yeah.
goal is, to have this.
Well,
loaded on our
because
list
it's
tonight.
just managing the class, like the road part. The classroom 6 to 8 is doable. It's just the road ride part. But if there's 2
Yeah.
instructors, it should be okay.
And this is very general, but this is, just our
Okay.
guiding principles. Thank you, though, Christine. I appreciate your input. Becca, go ahead.
In item number 2, where it says plan, does this mean that we will be paying for Julia's certification as one of our budget items?
Correct. So we have received funding for that league certified instructor training through a grant. So when we get into the budget review, we can talk more about that. But yes, ultimately.
Super.
Technically speaking, it's not from our budget, it's from the grant money.
Correct. Thank you, Nick.
But like, Julia will not be self-funding. We will be making arrangements.
Correct.
Wonderful.
Okay. Any last questions on education before we move on to communication and outreach?
I want to just say congrats to Julia for figuring this out and getting certified, or making the plan to get.
She hasn't done it yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
And thank you,
Thank
for
you,
making the
guys.
commitment. Thank you, Julia. Okay. Communication and outreach. I also you'll see some comments here from Sarah Roy. I had some outside, and class commissioners and other really integrated specialists look at our strategic plan and give feedback. So that's why those comments are appearing here. And thank you to all the commissioners who've given input and read through this and made edits. So the communication and outreach goals here, increasing positive social engagement online. We do that through our subscriber list, which we have an email go out with announcements and reminders for our meeting. We post educational content, reshared or original. We closely collaborate with the health department, which is also Jalea, in sharing that sort of content. And we are aiming to continue posting video content, which Manny has worked on in the past, and we aim to continue to do. Instead of having like a set number of posts, I found that measuring by just an increase in engagement of 25% based on where we are now versus where we will be in December might be an easier achievable goal. So if everyone is in line with that, or if anyone has questions or comments on this, Becca, go ahead.
Just so that we're being specific, so we have two ways that we communicate, email and Instagram, is that correct?
We communicate through these meetings through our email listserv, which, yes, we have.
But when we're talking about stuff like posts, we're specifically talking about Instagram posts.
No, we are present on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I don't believe we're on TikTok or
Oh,
any
super.
other
See, I'm
platforms.
glad I asked.
Okay.
I don't do any social media, so I'm not sure where we are.
Okay.
I do think she brings up a good point, though. Post can be pretty general. If we specify which platforms, then like it's better to have a more specific goal than a less specific goal, right?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit what I was getting at too.
I mean, I think the devil's advocate here is that whoever's doing social, which I think right now is Emily, and Emily has a lot more expertise than the rest of us, that could be, you know, at the discretion of the social media manager. But you know, if there's a particular platform that we're not on that we want to get on, then maybe that could be a goal. But I don't think that we're at a position in the development of the strategic plan here where we want to add something like that. And I also don't know that there's necessarily a need to.
Right. I'm aligned with everything you guys have said so far. I will change this to share instead of post, because again, the goal being to circulate and engage with the residents here in in Norwalk, all over Norwalk, not just South Norwalk. So, you know, it's not really specific to the platform as much as it is to the engagement of people attending our meetings and replying to emails, or, you know, giving us comments on social media sites. If that sounds good to the rest of the commission.
Sure, I guess there's some advantage in keeping it general in the sense that it becomes a little bit easier to justify that we accomplished the goal, if you will.
Right, exactly.
I
The other
have a comment on the measure though. 25% increase. As a personal preference, I'd like to see actual numbers in parentheses to know like what we're actually aiming for number wise. My second comment on the measure, subscribers and followers can be, I think, pretty easily extrapolated, but event attendees, I don't know that we'd be able to extrapolate that as did we actually accomplish that between 2024 and 2025?
I believe we can, because we have lists of attendees from our events, whether it was Bike to Work Week, Open Streets, we have signups, and it's not attendees as much as it is people who signed in, and we can go against that. So it's a rough estimation, but we can also do that with the number of people that we currently have on our email list, as well as followers on social media. So I don't have those specific numbers, but to measure it, I think absolutely your point is right. We can grab those numbers and compare them to what we have at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about the event signups, but yeah, I would like to see numbers in parentheses.
Okay. Becca?
I just wonder if there's any way, because subscribers, followers to me fits here, but event attendees, like, unless we're going to really stop everyone at the door and say, like, what brought you here? You know, how are we going to measure that social media engagement led to an in-person show up? Maybe that's not quite part of this.
Yeah, I think that's maybe going a bit beyond what I'm trying to achieve here, but I understand your point.
I mean, if we narrowly define events as like tabling, we could, for example, assign somebody to just like stand there with a clicker and keep track of all the number of people that we talk to at the table. And also, like, tabling is the most predictable type of event that we do. Anything else that we do, I think, is maybe with bike valet being a new exception. It's like the most regular thing we do.
I think we can address Becca's concern by perhaps just renaming the goal to be increased positive engagement and forgo the online.
I would be totally
Perfect.
satisfied with that.
Excellent. That's very good feedback. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Any last questions on communication and outreach? Okay, moving on to infrastructure and accessibility. I do have this quarterly meeting, which Greg offline has, reached out and will confirm dates in February and March before our next meeting to have this meeting with TMP. So I will be reaching out about that, but we're aligned in that effort and looking forward to doing that. The one thing I did get feedback on that I would like to take off here is the promotion of the Complete Streets Design Guide program and facilities for bicycles and pedestrians in the city of Norwalk. This is per conversation, the committee is not a formal reoccurring meeting, it's an as needed meeting. It's something that I just feel, in an effort to consolidate our strategic goals here is something that I can remove from our plan, not to say that it won't happen, but just in our list of priorities, I'd like to remove it from the plan. Is anyone opposed to that?
Sorry, I'm just trying to understand, like, you want what you're talking about number 2, right? Emily?
Correct. This goal that's promoting the Complete Streets Design Guide programs.
Why would we take it off?
In an effort to consolidate our goals here, there are other pieces that I've added. And as I mentioned before, it's not a formal reoccurring meeting. It's an as needed basis. So it's not
So-
something that I wanted to, as a commission, make a priority for all of us.
So not to meet regularly, but like this, we're integrating what we do meet about into this Complete Streets Design Guide and Program and Facilities. That's what I'm hearing.
Sorry, say that again.
So we're taking it off as like a formal approach, but it's the work we do is being integrated into the Complete Streets Design Guide and the programs, like everything that we do leads to that, no? My understanding?
Yes.
Okay.
Tanner and then Becca.
Yeah. First, to address Christine's question, I think that specifically when we wrote this goal, there were two types of work that were contained in it. One was the work of submitting feedback on the design guide itself, and that feedback deadline has already passed. So in some sense, half of this is done. I submitted feedback with Sustainable Streets, and I think other people submitted their own feedback as well. The other part of this was that there's a representative from the Bike Walk Commission that will serve on the Complete Streets Committee, and that's what Emily's referring to as being not a regular meeting, but kind of an as-needed meeting. And it's not a meeting that more than one person from the Bike Walk Commission has to attend. Conceivably, the commission could discuss items from that and then make recommendations to whoever is representing the committee or whoever is representing the commission on the committee. But it's hard to know whether that will be useful or appropriate until this committee gets underway and starts working.
All right, thank you for the clarity. The representative, has that been decided or we're not there yet? Greg?
So the chair of the Bike Walk Commission is the representative.
Okay, sounds good.
Becca, go ahead.
Yep, I think Tanner made my point. Just there's not an action item here, therefore it's not a goal.
I just appreciate the clarity though.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's a good question, Christine. I appreciate it.
And one more
Yeah.
point, based on my reading of the ordinance, it's not the chair necessarily that's the appointee, but rather the chair gets to decide the appointee.
Right.
That's how I read the ordinance.
It's written by the common council that approved it was the certain representatives, and if they're not able to, then their designee, but formally written into the approved ordinance is the chair of the Bike Walk Commission. So if they are able to, whoever the Bike Walk Commission chair is, we would like them to be the representative on the committee. And we hope we don't even have to meet very often as the committee. But in case, it's the chair.
With all that said, so infrastructure and accessibility in our strategic plan, it will be focused on our meetings with TNP for those updates, similar to what Jim has walked through in the proposal of the budget, or open projects with feedback there. We'll meet with commissioners quarterly with TNP. The other goal being to review, promote, and update Norwalk's pedestrian and bikeway transportation plan. We have another agenda item later to talk about an update on that, I believe. So with that said, any last questions from commissioners on these two items for infrastructure and accessibility for our goals? Okay. Walking and biking events. So on here, first and foremost, the bike valet at 4 community events. We've talked about this before. I did get a note from Sarah, but I think we're all aligned. Nick and Manny, do you have any revisions or additions or comment on these goals?
I'm all set.
Excellent. Okay. And then engage 2 events with underrepresented community groups. Christine, I know formally you brought this to our commission. I've expanded it a little bit to include, bike repair clinics, as well as distributing educational materials and safety supplies. The other piece that I've merged in here is not only partnering with local organizations, and Manny, I believe we have an agenda item for upcoming events, so we can talk about the opportunity with filling in the blanks then, but I also added just key speakers that we could host as a potential event to encompass more opportunities for different events. So if that sounds good to the commission as this goal, that's what I'm envisioning here for us. Any thoughts or questions on this goal?
I think that's great.
I just, so I'm just kind of pausing at the word events. I think maybe including underrepresented groups in our work, in the commission's work, which would be very broad, because I'm thinking like, bike education classes for underrepresented groups is a personal goal of mine. And I look forward to working with Julia on that in the future. So yeah, that's my opinion. Thank you you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I would consider that an event as well. So that would 2 birds, 1 stone with that one. That would be great.
You want to
Okay.
leave events there rather than just include like I guess intentional, like the commission's work is intentional. But if you want to keep, because events is very specific. I don't know if we need to say events, but.
Are you saying, Christine, that you wanna target underrepresented community groups in the work we're already doing, or you want to do work that is specifically for them? Is that the distinction?
I guess I just am hesitant with the word event, like it should, but if that should be a goal, is to make that a priority of our, like, not a priority, but I guess just to be intentional of our work, that we representing a lot of different populations that reflect the city of Norwalk. Well,
Christine, I think the issue is that we have to have a way to measure that. So how do you want to measure that?
Right, through events and activities, I guess. Maybe activities, add that, maybe. Like a class would be an activity. It's not an event.
Uh,
I
Okay,
mean, to me, that seems equivalent.
yeah, I feel the same, but if it's more clear,
Okay.
I'm happy to do this too, event/activities.
I think the idea here was that we would engage with an organization that would allow us to better interact with underrepresented community groups. And a very straightforward way to do that is to say, hey, said organization, do you want to host an event with us? And they will bring the audience that we're looking for that event to the event. And it doesn't have to be an event, to your point, it could be an activity, but semantics aside, that was like kind of one of the most straightforward ways that we decided was a good way to get that goal in mind.
Yeah, like National Night Out falls under that. Number 2, we do it every year.
Right.
So, yeah,
Perfect. I feel like we're aligned in that goal then, and thank you, Christine. Those were good points, and thank you, Nick and Tanner. Okay. In addition to that, and this kind of falls into that same category, but we had such a good outcome last year. I wanted to make sure it was reinstated as a goal this year, the Walk Bike Roll to School Day in October, and partnering with the Norwalk Public Schools. This year, I'm hoping to identify 3 to 5 schools. Julia, myself, Manny, and Brianna and Christine worked with, I think we did 3, is that right, Manny? Or yeah, 3 last year. So I'm aiming to get us to between 3 and 5 for this year.
Yeah, and Emily, I think if we start earlier with recruitment and are a little bit more active with it, then we should be able to get more schools. I think it just felt a little last minute deciding on schedules and timing and how to go about things, since some of the schools already have previously done it. But I think if we start earlier, we should definitely hit at least 4 to 5 schools. If not, maybe more, I'm hoping.
Definitely. Thank you, Julia. Absolutely. I agree. So we'll continue to form our educational committee and getting that started earlier. Perfect. The last one that I have on here, so co-hosting Bike to Work Week events with businesses and transit hubs. I believe it was last year, or it might have been in 2023, Tanner. I don't remember which one specifically it was, but we, during Bike to Work Week, it might have been 2023, we, during the week,
Big. Yeah.
yeah, we went through to the Wheels Hub and the train stations, and we connected with a lot of commuters, walkers, bikers. I really enjoyed that, and I felt like it was a good way to connect with the community. So I want to plan that again for this year, as long as it's aligning with our commissioner's vision as well.
I think that's great.
Thank you, Manny. Any thoughts from other commissioners on this goal or on any of our event goals here?
Emily, you can put my name down for the Bike to Work Week. I don't know if I was still on the fence about that earlier, but I'm at the very least happy to help out, on the week of and staff the tables.
And it's in May, so we have 4 months. Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Tanner. Perfect. So we'll start preparing and promoting that by the end of April. Okay. Moving on to grants and recognition. The other piece of feedback that I received that I felt was good, and especially because TMP is actively doing this and Greg is very good about sharing opportunities for grants, I decided to take it off our responsibilities as it is part of our ordinance, and we're happy to support the grants where we can. I'm just taking off the goal and commitment of seeking out new grants and creating that work, if that aligns with everyone. Tanner, go ahead.
So does this mean that we won't prioritize applying for like the micro grant that we have applied for the last couple of cycles?
No, it doesn't mean that. It just, I felt that it was added with the goal of securing 2 new grants, and not to say we won't do that, but it's not, a priority or what we're, in terms of other things that we're doing. We'll definitely still be applying for grants, and I know it's on our agenda to talk about one at the end of this call, but I'm just, as our strategic plan, I don't feel it's necessary to measure, plan, and have owners on that, if you agree.
Okay.
Any commissioner with comments on that, or may I remove this from our strategic plan? Okay, so that leaves with the one goal of our achieving bronze bike friendly community status, which is also on our agenda to discuss later. We have Tanner, Becca, Nick. I did sign up, Ben. I haven't talked to him yet, but Greg, I will leave you on here. Okay, and then last point here, accountability and reporting. So just making sure, so in our next meeting in March, we'll do a quarterly strategic plan progress check-in, which we're already making great progress and we haven't even approved it yet. So I'm feeling confident about that. And then the annual report to the Mayor and Common Council. I put myself and Nick just because we attended the meeting last year, but I also want to open it up to other commissioners to join this. Not to say I'm removing you, Nick, but if there's anyone else interested in being a part of those meetings or presenting to the Common Council that wants to be an owner, which is really just making sure we have someone, a point of contact responsible for this, please let me know. Okay. So then with all that said, Tanner, did you vote on approving the strategic plan last year, or is this just something that
I
is
think we
like a
did.
guiding
Yeah.
principle? Yeah.
I think it's quite appropriate. It shows, that we have like officially that we've gotten to the point where we're happy enough with it to formalize it with a vote. I mean, there's no requirement one way or the other that we formalize it, but I think it's a good idea.
Perfect. Okay, then can I entertain a motion to approve our commission's strategic plan for 2025? Tanner, Becca, thank you. All in favor? Excellent. Okay, it's in effect. Thank you all very much for your time here tonight. I know we're a little over time here. So our next update, which I think we've covered a lot of these in our conversation, but the update on the bike safety classes in Norwalk, I allotted 5 minutes to talk about that. Christine, I know you mentioned there's going to be more details. We could either have a special meeting if we need more time to talk about it, or I don't know if there's anything else we need to cover before our next meeting in March.
Well, so I guess, the smart cycle class, right? So I could run one. I sent you information tonight, or last night about that and kind of the needs. So if you want me to pursue that, with you, we can do that, and Julia and any other commissioners that want to take a course, like a 4-hour course. But is that we could, that's the goal, is to do it before April, right, for Julia, so probably maybe March, end of February, depending on the weather, end of February, March, because part of it's outdoors.
Okay. Yeah, if we need to have a special meeting just for planning and pursuing that, I'm happy to arrange that. But I know on another item on our agenda tonight is to discuss our budget and approve hopefully some quotes we have, and I've added your expense
Okay.
to that.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? I guess the other update I would look for is Julia. I know we were in conversation with CT State College and the wellness committee with them, and we talked about doing bike safety courses at their location. Have you had any additional contact with them yet?
No, I have not.
conversation?
I haven't heard anything, Emily.
Okay. So I guess I'll just make note for our next meeting to try and get that conversation going, if you don't mind
Yeah, absolutely.
collaborating with me. Okay,
Absolutely.
excellent. Thank you.
Did
Okay.
you want me to reach out to them, Emily? Or I'm sorry, did you want me to reach out to them?
If you don't mind, I'm happy to re-engage with them as well. I think it's
Okay.
Paula and I'm happy to talk about it offline too.
All right, no, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Our next agenda item here, upcoming events and bike valet. I just wanted to also revisit our most near upcoming event, which is around the corner for our first bike valet event, Earth Day. The Earth Day Festival is officially on Saturday, April 26th. So just in anticipation of that, I know Greg, part of the process is, or actually Nick, do we need insurance for bike valet or no?
Only if they ask us for it. They didn't last year. I'll
Okay.
leave it at that.
That's good news then. Okay. Then I don't really have anything else for bike valet, but oh, Manny, I know you were talking to Filling in the Blanks about an event. I don't know if, yeah, you have anything to add for an upcoming event with them.
Yeah, actually, I was just double checking. I sent a follow-up email to y'all, right? Okay.
Yes.
I think I did. Okay, good. To the education subcommittee. So I had a conversation about, I think it was last week, with Paola with Filling in the Blanks. And she welcomes us to go this Saturday, because they're having their next food distribution on Saturday. They provide the tables and chairs, so I think that makes it pretty easy for us to show up with brochures or any things that we want to hand out. And so I just need to send her an email with the number of people who will be showing up. It's this Saturday morning at 8 a.m. I plan on being there. So if anybody else wants to also join in, that'd be great. Going back to some of our strategic planning, their food distribution is every month. And so, one of my goals is to be able to attend on the months that she provided. And I'm really hoping that some of the strategic planning goals are met that way, where we're engaging a population that maybe we wouldn't be necessarily engaging with, right? And also, kind of trying to figure out, we're kind of going with the tabling aspect, but maybe then kind of go from there to see what can come out of the tabling, which can be a class of sorts. Christine, but I didn't want to jump the gun. I think it's good to just go and check it out and kind of see what's going on there, who they are, who the population is, and try to get to know them a little more.
This is so great. Thank you, Manny. And I'm so sorry I didn't realize it was already this Saturday at 8 a.m. Do you know how long
yeah.
the event lasts?
I think like an hour, so it's not too
Okay.
it's not too long.
One thought that comes to mind is the supplies that we currently have. I know we have educational materials available in English and Spanish in the Yankee Doodle garage, and we also have a surplus of bike locks. So that could be
Oh,
something
cool.
that we could hand out at the event if that's
Totally.
helpful and agreed upon by our commissioners. But I would love to join you at the Filling in the
Cool.
Blanks event this Saturday.
And I'd be more than willing to pick up the stuff. I know Thursday. I know, like, I can do it on Thursday or something like that in the morning.
Perfect. I think the process there is, yeah, Greg just needs, 2 or 3 days notice, and then, he can coordinate with I want to say representative of Yankee Doodle Garage, but someone with access to get into the garage. So I'll make sure to coordinate that. Julia, go ahead.
I've actually attended the Filling in the Blanks monthly food pantry before. Just
Oh,
an
cool.
FYI, you're definitely going to need somebody there that speaks Spanish each time, because the majority of the individuals that do attend the pantry are Spanish speaking. So the Spanish materials would be really helpful when you're handing stuff out. I think most of the material you're going to hand out is probably going to need to be in Spanish. Just a heads up.
Great, thank you.
And I can't join this Saturday, but for future reference, I should be able to come on Saturdays, the monthly.
Awesome.
Any other commissioners that would be interested in attending the Filling in the Blanks event this Saturday at 8 a.m., which is February 8th? If not, there will be more opportunities going forward, but Manny, it looks like it'll be you and me, so I'm so excited to do that. Okay. Our next agenda item, and I apologize, we're running a little over here. Discuss expenditures from our commission budget. Okay, I'm gonna pull up.
Sorry,
on my
I was
screen
muted.
here.
Emily,
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Tanner.
can I move to rearrange the agenda just a little bit?
Sure.
I'm not sure that I'll be able to stay for the entire meeting, given how over we're going. I'm wondering if I could report on the BFC application work estimates before the budget. I'm not sure that I'll have any input to the budget discussion, but I did some legwork that I want to report on.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Gotcha. Delene, do we need to vote to rearrange the agenda? I think some commissions have done that before. I'm not sure.
Yes, you actually should. You need to suspend the rules.
All right, then I move to suspend the rules and reorder the agenda in the way that I just described.
Can I make a,
I'll second.
yeah,
Thanks,
okay.
Nick.
Go ahead, Tanner. So you're gonna start with the bike-friendly application work
Well,
estimates.
if we're gonna follow the rules to a T, we need to finish the vote. You had a move, you had a second, and now we have to vote.
Oh, all in favor? Sorry, thank you. Okay,
Okay. Thank you. All right. So the task that I signed up for last month was to review the bike-friendly community application and compare it against the application that we already filled out, with the intention to help inform the decision of whether we put forth the work this year to apply. There's really two questions. One is, does the commission have the bandwidth to do the work the commission needs to do? And then does TMP have the bandwidth to do the work that only TMP can do? So what I've done is I have fleshed out the differences between the two applications and also highlighted the work that, in my view, only TMP can do. The high-level takeaway is that there are actually very few differences. There are only two new questions in the whole, dozens pages long application. There's a bunch of questions that have a couple new options. Very few of them pertain to Norwalk. The biggest thing is that TMP would need to do two tasks that they did last time. One is to fill out a worksheet about the number of full-time employees that are working on biking or walking. That last time looked like this. It's changed a little bit, but as you can see, there's a bunch of different employees that at the time were spending a little bit of their time on walking and biking issues. So tallying up that number is one of the things that we'd ask TMP to do. The other thing we would ask TMP to do is fill out this worksheet, which Kyle did. I think Kyle did both of these last time. This is by far the more labor intensive one. This requires basically querying the city's GIS to know how many lane miles of all these different kinds of roads and also of bike facilities there are. The only difference between last time and this time is that all the inputs are the same, but the output is different in that the new worksheet also calculates in addition to the percentage of roads with any bike facilities, we have a percentage of roads with low stress bike facilities, which I think is a good call out because a low stress bike facility makes a big difference that a high stress bike facility doesn't. So those are really the only two asks we would have of TMP. Obviously, if any other input that they want to give would be welcome. But I think that the application could be completed successfully with only those two pieces of input from TMP. So let's see, where was I? Back here. So the decision about whether we go for it this year, I think, comes down to whether TMP can commit to do those two worksheets between now and the end of June when the deadline is. Everything else, I think, given my experience filling the bulk of the application out the first time around, and the fact that very few questions are different, I think that the commission can do their side of the equation here.
Great, thank you, Tanner.
Greg, do you need to take that back to the department, or can you make a determination right now, do you think?
I can't make a determination now, Tanner. I mean, right now, we have 7 projects that are slated to be under construction sometime this year. We're 2 people in the hole right now that we need to hire and get on board. So I can't give a commitment. I'm gonna have to look at resources and time, because I understand you guys are taking on a lot of it, and I appreciate that, but it's still work that TMP needs to do. So I have to talk with the team and discuss first.
Okay. Yeah. Can you do you think that you can have an indication by the next meeting,
I don't know,
or
Tanner.
at least an update for us?
I'll see what I can do. I just went. Are there 2 submittals this year or just 1?
Just one. They've switched to 1 per year now.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna talk to the team, Tanner, and just see, because even at that, like, we need to submit it by the end of June, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, it all depends upon timing, when we get if we get candidates hired, for the traffic analyst and for the construction manager role. But I'll
Mhm.
if I have an update at next meeting, I'll share it with you, but I can't share yes or no right now.
Okay. Do you have any follow-up questions though about this review that I did of the application?
No, I mean, it looks like you put a lot of work into reviewing it and what can be taken on and what we can utilize from the last submittal, which is helpful. But like you said, the sheet from that you shared, with the existing facilities and the mileage, that's pretty intensive. So we would have to, we have other
Yeah,
related items that have been requested for other through other studies and other items as well. So we can't just drop everything else and move this to the top of the list.
Yeah, understand. I'm hoping that the lead time here of almost 5 months will be enough that it can be slotted in somewhere between now and then. But obviously, not having a traffic analyst makes a big difference. So I get it, especially if TMP is not able to hire a traffic analyst between now and June. I'll understand if this doesn't get gotten to.
And also take into account, even if we did hire one, over the next couple months, it takes time for them to get onboarded, get them up to speed.
Yeah.
It's not just day one, here you go, start working on this.
Yeah, I get it. Okay. Questions from commissioners?
I personally don't have any questions. This looks great to me. Thank you for doing all this, Tanner. And, it might make sense for us when we do meet with TMP for our quarterly update to have this on the agenda to discuss when
Yeah,
that
that's a good
happens.
idea. That's a great idea.
I just, thank you, Tanner, that looks great. I wish we could help Greg and kind of get this going, because it would be a great feather in the cap for the city to get that award. And we still have the momentum from last time, so it would look good in the eyes of the league too. But thank you for this. Is this, you shared this with us, or can I get?
I haven't yet, but I will. I'll send it to you. I'm happy to do that. A couple things I want to call out. 2 are reasons why I think that we have a better case than last time. Number 1, obviously, is complete streets and having passed the ordinance, and by June, I would hope that the design guide is ratified. And then the other one being that when we submitted this the first time around in 2023, we had basically nothing to write for the education piece, and that in the wake of that, that's when I first started to try and reach out to people and encourage people to work on that. And Emily and others here, Christine and Manny have picked that up very well. So I think there's a lot in the process right now that we can get credit for that we didn't get credit for 2 years ago, thanks to your work. The last thing I'll say is there's a new section about bike audits. I think this is kind of comparable to a walk audit. We've done several walk audits, but I don't think we've ever done a bike audit. The application links to a guide from AARP for doing bike audits. I don't know I haven't read the guide. I don't know how involved it is, but my guess is that it's roughly equivalent to a walk audit. So I would, if anyone's interested in talking more about doing a bike audit, I'd love to be involved if we ever do a bike audit. I don't know that we'll necessarily get to it before June, but it does sound like a cool idea. That's all.
Thank you, Tanner. Yeah, that sounds exciting. Okay, I know you said you probably have to go, but the other agenda item you had here was the update on the ped master plan. Do you have anything to add for that? Oh, you are muted.
Yes, I think when I sent you that agenda item, that was caveated with if it's ready. It is not ready, but I can commit to reporting on that in March. I do remember last month, Becca, you volunteered to own this one with me, right?
Sure, yeah, let's sidebar.
Yeah, you down to meet this week and start that?
Yeah, I'll
Next week?
hit you up off list.
Great. That's all then. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Tanner. Okay, going back to our agenda, and we are a little over, but I allotted 10 minutes to look at our budget here, so I'm going to pull that up. Okay. So thank you to the commissioners who've put input in here. I believe I've shared it with everyone to review. This is our fiscal 2024 to 2025 projected budget, excuse me. Some of these things have already been spent and approved, so we've listed those things there. Thank you, Nick Pappas for getting those organized. Christine, as you mentioned earlier, there's the training, the prerequisite to the league certified instructor piece that has to be a league certified instructor to work with Julia, who will go and attend the course in April. And I believe the quote you sent over was $35 for 4 hours. It's 2 2-hour sessions. Is that correct?
Actually, it's $35 per hour. That's the league recommendation for an instructor training.
Okay, so it's $35 an hour for 4 hours, correct?
Right.
Okay. And so the total would be 140 for the prerequisite training. Okay.
And it can be for more than one person, like if anybody else here wants to, is available, like Nick, and, we talked about Nick maybe also in the future. Anybody.
Perfect. Okay. So I added that as a budget item here as that prerequisite to Julia's training, which, as mentioned before, is covered in the micro grant that we applied for, the league instructor training. We were allotted $600 for that. So that should cover the formal training in New Haven in April for Julia. Any questions from commissioners on that? Oh, Tanner, you're still here. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to stay just long enough to give you whatever quick feedback I have. Number one, for open streets, I see we have $1,500 allotted for traffic police, et cetera. Is that number based on last year's number? Because I'm pretty sure last year's number was split with Rec and Parks, and if we wanted to split it again, we'd have to talk to them, and I haven't talked to them. Maybe you have.
Correct. I had to go back and look at previous emails, and one that I did find from Ben Hanpeter was that the Bike Walk Commission had $885 remaining in our budget last year, but Rex and Park did confirm that they paid $1,500 for 3 police officers. So I know there was some split there. I allocated
I think
$1,500 to.
that was an old number though, because we found out at the last minute that the police commission wanted twice as many as we planned for. And I think we finagled the budget at the last minute to find the additional money.
Okay.
Well-
Would you be able to send me those
Emily-
estimates?
Okay, I have an update on that. I met with Robert Stowers today.
Oh, great.
And I'm glad Greg's here. I didn't want to bring it up to Jim, but yeah, thank you for pointing this out, Tanner, because it's getting late and I'm starting to fade away over here. But should I give the update now on what Robert said about open? He
Yeah,
wants
I think
this
it
to be.
makes sense. It's very topical.
We
Okay,
have
yeah,
an agenda item on it, but I also, it's an estimate is this budget here. So it's not, it's not
Okay,
based
yeah.
on anything yet.
Well,
I'll
anyway,
defer to Emily.
okay, should I wait or go? Emily.
I'd rather, you wait so that
Oh.
we can finish the budget discussion and then we'll finish the agenda in that order. If that's okay. So the other items here on budget, we have that training that I mentioned. Bicycle mechanic training was something else that we brought up
Yeah, that was
before.
the other thing I wanted to ask about, if I can, quick before I drop.
Go ahead.
Do we have a particular quote from anybody, or is this just a guess?
I did reach out to Javi from Cannondale about like mechanical training. Again, this is just a rough estimate of what we imagine the cost to be. So there's no
I have
statement
two-
yet.
I have 2 quotes, Emily, for you, because I was applying for the second round with the grant, so I talked to REI and Smart Cycle.
Excellent. Okay. Do you have quotes for that or?
I do, yeah, they were in the application. I think I said that to you yesterday, it's in the application, so I have direct quotes on that, and they're both willing partners. And they have the facility. Well, at least REI has a facility.
Okay. I don't know if I
I'll
see
send it
your
to you again.
application.
I wasn't ready to.
So you don't
tell,
have the
um,
numbers on hand by any chance?
I can look.
Okay. If not,
I
not a
do
problem.
need
I
to
know
drop
we're,
now, Emily. Thank you for putting the
getting
budget
late.
summary together.
Thank you, Tanner. So then Christine, if you can let me know with those 2 quotes, we'll get this to be an accurate number. It doesn't have to be right now. So the other potential budget spend we have here is for an open streets event that we will talk about in a minute. The other thing that I added here is a speaker event, and that ties into our goal of hosting 2 events. I think it could be a really good opportunity to look at local professionals and subject matter experts in everything, walking and biking and city structure. So this was something that I wanted to potentially, have budget spend on hosting or collaborating with the Norwalk Library like we've done in the past for that street project documentary showing that we did, I want to say it was in 2022 or 2023. But hosting another event like that would be, available to the public to attend and again, an educational opportunity. The other pieces on here, the Bike to Work Week with food and drink. So if we did do more events focused on handing out, breakfast, coffee, and interacting with individuals, having that budget allocation for food and drink and supply for that. Additionally, we have, as seen as last time, taillights and headlights, and I know Nick Pappas was working on getting quotes from Smart Cycles on those. The last thing here too is swag, water bottles, drawstring bags, t-shirts. I'm working on getting quotes for those, so I don't have a number on there yet, but I imagine anything we have left over can go into swag. Does any other commissioner have input or comment or anything that we would be ready to vote on tonight for a budget spend?
I do.
Go ahead, Christine.
So I'm just going back to like the bike lights and the tail lights. I keep bringing this up, and I don't like that we bought lights before. I thought we had a whole lot of lights, but encouraging people to ride at night, I just don't think it's a smart thing to do. The other thing is I'd like to start to purchase a fleet of bicycles because I spoke with Greg and we do have room. And if we run classes, it would be nice to get at least like 3 bicycles. I have quotes on that, how much that would cost. And REI gave us a deal, and so did Smart Cycles. So that's just my opinion. Of course, they're a lot of money. I'm trying to think they might be like 500 each for a bike, a basic bike, 350. Honestly, I don't have it on the top of my head. So that's just my opinion.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Becca, I see you have your hand raised.
I'm not so concerned about bike lights, because I think that rather than encourage people to ride at night, it would at least provide, visibility during those cloudy days, et cetera. And of course, there are people who need to ride at night, such as commuters. Once the clocks change, it can get dark. And just in general, encouraging morning commuters to have a blinking light on them, I think would be a best practice. But I defer to the instructor.
Thank you, Becca.
I have a comment on the speaker event priority 8 item. I see you have quantity 2 listed there. Does that imply that you are looking to hold 2 such events?
No, I'm not sure how that got to be 2. I think my goal in estimating $1,000 was for one event. But again, I don't have a statement of work. I have a list of potential speakers, but I haven't been able to acquire any quotes yet. So I think my goal was to start out with one and then go from there. But thank you for catching that. Yeah, I don't anticipate trying to arrange two.
Okay. That
I
was my.
do. Yeah, I do think that is a lot of money for a speaker, unless they're like national and you're trying to get somebody big, but and a venue too, like the library. I don't, is there a cost to the library, to the auditorium?
In the past, there was, but we did get a sponsor from Cannondale that covered the cost of our event space at the library. So it depends on where we're doing it. And you're right, I, included not only event space and the fee for the speaker, but also, food or other necessities that we may need for the event. But this again is a rough estimate. I don't have a statement of work supporting this yet, so I would need that.
Before we continue, I feel pretty comfortable making a motion to approve the spend for Christine's fee for training Julia and others. Can we just get that squared away?
Second.
Yeah, I'm in favor. All in favor? Manny, I'm gonna need you, I think.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'll
Yeah,
raise
no
my hand.
worries. Thank you so much, Manny. Okay,
Thank you.
then that is approved. Thank you, Christine, for offering to do that. Okay, great. So then, Christine, you mentioned you're going to be able to send us the quotes for the bike mechanic training. Thank you for getting that done.
I have it right here. So it's $650 for 3 2-hour courses, including one in Spanish.
3 2-hour courses,
Yeah,
including one. And this
And
is
then-
the bike mechanic training, right?
correct,
Okay.
correct. And then just for the sake of discussion here, and we can't do the round 2 of the grant because we didn't spend out this grant round 1 money. So which
Right.
Greg found out, but the fleet of bicycles, 5 bikes, 3 children, 2 adults would be 3,000. Those are quotes from those 2 stores.
So, and the reason I believe we used to have items here for that. One discussion topic from our last meeting was reaching out to the police department that may have access to, lost or acquired bikes and getting them through there, or reaching out to, potentially REI or other bike shops that would be willing to loan or rent or something like that. So that's why I didn't allocate bike commissions or have it in our proposed budget spend, but I think you make a good point for the safety classes. It may make sense to have that. I also, want to make sure we're aligned with that, but maybe we can talk in our next meeting or have another conversation out of this commission about that, outside of this meeting about that. Okay. So I'm glad we were able to vote on one budget item, and I know we are a little over time and we still have 2 agenda items left. Is it okay with the commission if we move on? Oh, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to reiterate to everybody. So as Christine mentioned, we have the grant money from the previous grant. We cannot apply for another grant until we spend the money. So the money that, Nick put together the application for from the previous micro grant, we need to spend it. So the items that you guys put in, we need to start moving that forward under the city's procurement guidelines, obviously, but we want to start moving that forward. And just keep in mind with the city's operating budget that you guys have, June 30th is going to be here soon. So I just want to reiterate to everybody, let's start prioritizing getting the money spent because you will lose it on June 30th.
Okay.
Luckily, Jim was able to advocate to get you guys that money rolled over into this year that was left over from last year, which was about 1,500. Can't guarantee that's going to happen again. So, between now and March, I just want to reiterate, let's get this money spent and get, locked in on what we want to spend the funds on. Because I want to see you guys spend the money. And same thing with the active transportation micro grant money, same thing. Let's get that money spent so we can apply for another round of grant money come the springtime or summer.
To that point, Greg, is there, or rather, do you know of deadline to spend the micro grant money?
I believe it's within like a 2-year period, but we can't apply for another grant until it's spent, so let's not wait. You know.
I
until
agree.
then.
We're not gonna wait, but I just having a deadline is something that helps me get things done, you know?
Gotcha. I'll give you a deadline. Spend it ASAP.
I guess on that note, and thank you for bringing that up, Greg, and great question, Nick. We did, we have budget to spend on that league cycling instructor training for Jalea. Jalea, if it's, I think you're still on the call. Yeah, can we make can I entertain a motion to approve that spend for Jalea to register for the course in April in New Haven? Christine?
You're talking about
I agree.
this item that's already allocated through the micro grant or something else?
Oh, yeah.
That's allocated through the micro grant.
Yeah, I don't think we need to approve that.
Oh.
That's already something.
Yeah, it's.
Oh,
right.
we just need to spend it?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's not the city budget. This is from the micro grant.
Yeah, but I do have a question for Greg regarding, but I think Greg, I'll talk to you offline. It's getting late. So regarding like getting paid, like the W-9 form, things like that, like through the city. Would that be you I go through or?
Yeah, there'd have to be a reimbursement process. So yeah, we can figure that out through purchasing.
Thank
you.
And then Greg, on that note too, for micro grant spend, if Jalea's going to register for this course, is she receiving that money through you through a reimbursement process, or is it something where we go through you to pay?
Yeah, I don't know. It all depends on how it's spent. I don't know. Whatever you guys, however it's want to be spent from the grant. You know, whether you want to go, we still have to abide by the city's procurement process. But you know, I don't know, something like this, we'll have to look at this offline and see what the best route to get it done.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll follow up with you after this meeting. Okay, and then with that, our last few agenda items here, and thank you all for your patience in getting through this. I have the Open Street event update. Thank you, Christine. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm just gonna be really quick. So Robert and I spoke and he wants to weave this into the Safe Streets design concept. The Complete Streets design concepts, calling it like an open streets. So he wants to have a meeting with Greg in the future and Jim to see how we can, he wants us to go under the umbrella of the Complete Streets design plan. This kind of safe streets that we would kind of recall it, safe streets rather than open streets. So I know it's a big shift, but I think it makes sense. He said just to get the support, right? Like, so that we're all working on this, like we're making Norwalk a safer place. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what he proposed to meet with, have a meeting with Greg and Jim and him in the future about incorporating into the Complete Streets master plan.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like maybe we can talk about it in our next meeting, because
Yeah, so if that's the case, that money, you know, for on the budget, it may not be necessary.
okay. It sounds like though, you know, ultimately being that we have this annual event for an open street celebration festival piece, we're going away from that, from what your conversation with Rob Stowers was.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I
He
think
said, like-
that's what it takes to get his support, and like, you know, we want that a lot, right?
Yeah, it's like building a culture in Norwalk, right? So he said like those other groups like Norwalk Public Schools, like they can, if they want to do something, you know, they can. That's kind of how he looked at it, but I think Emily, maybe we'll have you at a meeting and, you know, anybody else and Greg and Jim, if we can pull it off. They're very busy, obviously, so not busier than Robert's. Well, who knows? It's springtime, so things
We're
are.
all busy. It's good.
There you go.
No, I mean, it's a good point. And one thing I do want to add, though, Sarah Roy from CT Rides, who also works up in Fairfield, mentioned the opportunity if we can't pull off a larger event like Open Streets, there's something called Play Streets, which I feel like may be something else we can look at. But thank you so much for Christine for reaching out to Rob and connecting with him and giving me that giving us that update. Okay. So it is 8:04 and we got through our last two agenda. There is one more agenda item here, which is the update on the 2025 Recreational Trails Grant Program.
So
Uh,
Emily, I just wanted to update real quick because we had that call with the other cities. Just it looks like the grant is going to be, released sometime in late April, so it's going to be a little later this year. And with it due sometime in June. So just want to make sure everyone's up to date on that. And then, I don't know, obviously we don't know what the application is going to look like yet, but I know the commission is going to be taking on a bulk of that leading up to it. And they also said that, I know trying to get Darien on board is a whole nother issue and a whole nother discussion, but they also did state that having Norwalk alone by itself would also be a strong candidate without Darien as well. Because it's been an ongoing discussion for a year now trying to get Darien. And, I know Emily, you've had a lot of discussions and you're really trying to push hard on that. And, we appreciate all your efforts, but even if we can't get Darien, just having Norwalk in general would be a strong application as well. And seeing as how, as part of the budget, Jim is, we are submitting, an allocated portion of our money for the match of the grant. So either way, just want to make sure the commission's on board and that's something that you're able to take on, leading into that time span.
Definitely. Thank you for adding this to the agenda. And yeah, sorry, I'm in conversation with Jerry Silber from People Friendly Stamford, and I'm working with some other members of that Fairfield County Greenway group to build support in Darien. And I had a really good run-in with Tracy Mara, and who also recommended talking to people. But if there are any other commissioners interested in supporting this grant, I know Tanner started it last year, and I'm kind of picking up where he left off. But if there is anyone else interested in building support in Darien specifically, but also being involved in this grant application, please reach out to me. Thanks, Christine. Okay. And then with that, I think I will entertain a motion to adjourn unless there's anything else.
I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you, Becca. Okay, seconded Nick and Christine. All in favor? Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you, Darlene. Thank you, Greg, and everyone for participating. See you next time.
Everybody.
Thank you. Have a good night.